Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Lieboff. Joining me in just a moment are my friends and co-hosts, colleagues, Anthony DeBundo and BJ Cunningham. And together, the three of us are going to break down all 10 Premier League matches coming up in over the weekend. We will also do a quick look ahead to Boxing Day, since we won't be able to record again between now and then, with the holiday falling on a Monday. We'll also talk a little Serie A. They're the only other European league in action. And then we'll give out our customary three-leg underdog parlay. Give out our favorite bets in the Premier League coming up. Then we'll get out of here and leave you guys to Santa Claus and the eggnog and all that. But before we get this party started, a reminder that Wondergoal is presented by Bet365, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. It believes every sport should be epic. Every tournament, every game, every point, every play, from the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. See for yourself when you sign up today with code ACTION, and you'll get $365 in bonus bet when you just bet $1. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older, and you must be present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, or Virginia. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions apply. All right, no dancing around it. The headliner for this weekend's Premier League action is a 1 versus 2 top-of-the-table clash between Arsenal on 39 points from 17 games and Liverpool on 38 points, tied with Aston Villa of all teams there, but ahead on goal difference, ahead of the Villains. 1 loss on the season for Liverpool, 5 draws, 11 wins. 2 losses for Arsenal to go along with 3 draws and 12 wins. All right, and here are the odds from our friends at Bet365. As you'd imagine, pretty tight match is being played at Anfield, plus 137 for the Reds. BJ's Gunners traveling as a plus 180 underdog, and the draw is plus 260. This match feels like it could, in a weird way, look like what we just saw with Man United and Liverpool. One side kind of just dig it in, and the caveat is that the Arsenal defense is much better. But I think when you look at how these teams are going to want to play, one team, BJ, your team, is going to want to keep things as composed and pragmatic as possible, and then the other team's going to try to get Arsenal off script. So looking at these odds, I actually like Arsenal here. A very rare bet for me on Arsenal. Pretty common going against Liverpool, but
flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I'm actually shocked by both of you in this match.
Why?
Well, I mean, what was it, like 3 or 4 weeks ago? We all bet Newcastle at home as a pick'em against Arsenal.
They were underdogs, but yeah, go ahead.
It was like a toss-up. I mean, I think I got like a plus 105. Mm-hmm. And now, like, you all can't wait to bet Arsenal at Anfield as a pick'em?
Well, it's a completely different matchup.
Right, but like from a relative team strength perspective.
That's fine. It's a completely different matchup.
Let's see the case. No, you guys go first. You guys make the case.
We just saw Liverpool,
create 2+ expected goals, shoot 31 times, and
now they're playing a much better defense.
I mean, look, that was a pretty terrible United performance, if we're being honest.
That's the only way they could have played.
Right, and they got away with it.
And they got out of it. Yeah, that's right. What else did you want?
It wasn't good process. They got smoked.
What was the good process? Was going there and getting a point. That's in the only way
that's
possible.
A good result. That's not good process.
Yes, it is, because the process, if they had their full strength team, sure. But the only other way you could play that game is the only way they could have played it. They weren't ever going to.
They don't get credit for getting a lucky result. And I
absolutely give teams credit for something like that. When you're going there with the roster that they had. What else did you want them to do?
Sure, yeah, give them credit for in
a vacuum,
their passion and their desire to get the point, whatever. But I don't really think that's necessarily that matters that much here. Like if Arsenal comes in here and sits deep and just absorbs pressure for 90 minutes, I'll be shocked. Mm-hmm. I don't really think that's their plan.
No, they're going to control this match.
They're going to try to control the match. And
they are going. No, they are going.
And look, they tried to do it at Anfield in the spring, and they got played off the park.
Anthony.
And yeah, I know they have Saliba, and now they have Declan Rice, and now they're the greatest team that's ever stepped foot on a soccer field. Yeah. But like, BJ, make your case. I want to hear this case, and then I'm gonna go into this and kind of not necessarily disagree because I haven't bet Liverpool here, but I will disagree with betting Arsenal.
So we have seen Liverpool play, I would say, one team at the level of Arsenal this season, and that's Manchester City. And what happened in that match, Anthony? They got outplayed pretty much for the entire match and got bailed out by a Trent Alexander-Arnold strike from outside the box. But the problem was in that match, and City scored pretty early, and Liverpool essentially had to sit in some type of defensive block because their press just wasn't effective. So they have two choices in this match. They can try and come out and press Arsenal, who's one of the best build-up teams in the world, and I thought did a lot of really good things against Brighton, changed some things around. That gives them a lot more space for Martinelli and Saka to operate. Or Liverpool can just sit in a defensive block, which they haven't been good in for pretty much the entire Klopp era, especially this season as well. I mean, against City, they had a passive per defensive action of 17.4. Their press was non-existent against them, and they allowed close to 2 expected goals. So if they're just going to hand the ball to Arsenal and ask them to break them down, I get it. You're going to tell me how terrible Arsenal's offense has been. But Liverpool hasn't been good in rest defense. Like, if we're comparing defense to defense, Liverpool's been a half expected goal worse per 90 than Arsenal this season. Like, that's a very, very significant thing that is not talked about enough. And if we flip this and we say, okay, well, what is Liverpool's path to their best success against Arsenal? It's to play very, very direct in this match. When they want to be transitional, they are, I would say, probably the best transition team in the world. But they're also facing the best transition defense in the world here. I saw a stat today that really was perfect for this. Arsenal against Brighton, their out of possession stuff with their pressing and transition defense was basically perfect, I would say. Like, they were incredible against Brighton. This season, tackles, interceptions, and blocked passes in the opponent's final third. So essentially, what are you doing when you're pressing high? Arsenal has 138. The next closest is Spurs with 112. Like, that's how effective Arsenal has been when they have decided to press high. And, they obviously destroyed Brighton's buildup. We talked about that on the Sunday show. 11 high turnovers, 3 shots off those high turnovers, which is incredibly impressive. But I don't think Liverpool's faced a transition defense this good yet. And I don't know if they really have a good plan or if they have advantages, really. They're obviously a better offensive team, but they're not a better build-up team than Arsenal. They're not better defensively. They're definitely not better in rest defense. So I don't really see a scenario in this matchup where Liverpool is the better team. And even though they're at home, they haven't played anybody good at home this season. Like, United was probably the best team they've played outside of maybe Brentford. I guess Aston Villa early on in the season. But they've won every single match, but they haven't played the top tier competition. So I have Arsenal projected as a favorite. I know that's kind of probably biased. People are going to think that's biased, whatever. I don't really care. But I think in this matchup, they are a better team. And I don't think there's really a scenario that Liverpool has out of possession that's going to be successful against Arsenal.
So Liverpool played 8 matches at Anfield this year. They have a plus 21 goal difference, plus 16 goal difference, 21 goals scored, plus 13 expected goal difference. That's about a goal and a half per game. They have been a league average side away from home. Now, I want to acknowledge that everything we know about this Liverpool team in most of their 2 of their 4 biggest games of the season, at Newcastle, at Spurs, they played down a man for the majority of those matches and 2 men at various points. So any season-long data that we look at with Liverpool is going to have just an inherent skew. And if you just go, Macro Stats has this just non-penalty, just 11 on 11. Take out all penalties and all minutes where somebody was down a man. Liverpool's played the most minutes of non-11 on 11 in the league this year. Liverpool has a plus 0.94 expected goal difference, non-penalty, per 90. Arsenal was at plus 0.86. Yes, I think if you put a gun to my head and said, who is the better team? I would tell you it's Arsenal by like the smallest of margins, just because I do trust their defense more. That's without a doubt. But Liverpool makes up for it on the margins by having the best goalkeeper in the Premier League, whereas Raya and Ramsdale have both been below average shot stoppers. I think that matters. And look, like this thing about Liverpool's defense, and I know there's been a lot of like hand wringing. They're conceding 1.1 non-penalty XG per 90 in 11 on 11 situations. And if you look at their defense just kind of as a whole, and some things I talked about with Leverkusen this week, kind of like looking at shot data, they've allowed the fourth fewest shots per 90. They're allowing the sixth longest average shot distance, and their XG per shot is sixth lowest. So, and it's only teams that are better are Newcastle, Bournemouth, Everton, and Arsenal. So, like, they've been okay. I don't think they've been like a bad defense. Now, they will not have, it doesn't look, Gravenberch is in doubt here, and so is McAllister. So those are the two things to kind of watch here. I would be worried about Liverpool with a defense that's not full strength. But just given how dominant Liverpool's been at home, and given how good they've been in 11 on 11, I cannot fathom betting Arsenal as a road pick'em here. I just can't do it. Now, if Liverpool, I'm not, what?
They're underdogs.
But the market's down now. I mean, like Arsenal's like plus 107 right now. Most markets on the draw no bet. That's not good enough for me. I make Liverpool right around minus 115. So for me, if it gets to 110, I'm going to fire. Liverpool draw no bet at minus 110 or better is a bet for me. It has not gotten there yet. There has been some Arsenal money today. Liverpool played a rotated team, so they do get a little bit of extra rest here. But yeah, I've said this all year. I said that Liverpool had the higher ceiling than Arsenal. I still think that's true. I will back my boys, my Klopp, at home if it's minus 110 or better. I just don't understand how the Arsenal is rated that much better that they're a pick'em here, essentially.
So one more thing.
I think matchup wise, still it's like what when has Liverpool struggled this year too? Like the Palace match, they were not good. The Sheffield United match, like these are slower, like just slower moving matches, and it's just that's what frustrates them, lulls them to sleep.
To an extent,
yeah. I think that's part of why money's going to come in.
But like you could again, and I keep going back to this match because it really burned a hole in my brain, that match, and it stuck with me because I don't think these teams are that different. I think Liverpool clearly had figured some things out by the spring and made their run at the top four that ultimately came up short. Arsenal weren't playing at the same level. Their defense had certainly dropped off, but Arsenal were still controlling games at a decent level. There were just more mistakes. And you saw how little control they were able to keep in that match. And I think that, it's easy to say on paper, Arsenal can do this, but then when they get on the pitch at Anfield, it is a different environment and a different setting. So, going against Liverpool as a pick 'em at home is crazy to me. I wouldn't even do it if Man City was playing. So that's just my take. Again, I know Arsenal's got a very lofty market rating, and I'm going to be betting Arsenal, I think, in the next week or so. We'll talk about that going forward, but I can't get there. So Reds are nothing for me, but you guys, good luck to your Gunners. That's going to be fun. I'm so excited for this match as a potential neutral.
You're not a neutral.
I'm not a neutral. Yeah, I'm not a neutral.
far.
Clearly, you're not a neutral because you really, really. I know we know you love your Reds, but I know you really, really enjoy watching Arsenal lose, which is fine because I enjoy watching Tottenham lose too.
Well, I think we might be doing that this weekend. Maybe we can both watch our teams lose together.
That's true. Michael's team will be the only one that actually wins.
Wouldn't that be something? All right, let's
Arsenal wins this weekend. Are we gonna get Arsenal no prices at like even money? Whew.
It's the same as it was last year, basically.
Well,
with the World Cup, it's a little different, but like we had that conversation at this time basically last year.
Yeah.
Like, now,
if you listen to our preview show, someone gave out Arsenal to win the league.
It's true.
So somebody, I don't know.
Liverpool's only 1 point back, man. I still cannot believe they didn't win that match. That was so nauseating to watch.
They did what they had to do.
There's things we could get into next week about like why that didn't work, or could the Liverpool attack be overrated based off of things we've seen in certain matches. But again, all of their bad games come away from home. When they're at home, they just dominate everybody. It's actually amazing. The only match they didn't dominate at home this year and win the expected goals by at least a goal was the Brentford match when they played the entire backup midfield and struggled, and still won 3-0, by the way. So,
Okay. We'll send Anthony on his way to the Anfield Wrap, where he's got a spot today. Maybe me and BJ will break down this next one without him. Spurs minus 134 at home, hosting best team in the Premier League, perhaps best team of all time, Everton, 3-1, and the draw here is plus 320. These odds obviously are coming from our friends at Bet365. This is easy. This one is an easy one to break down. How can you bet against Everton right now?
Hottest team,
especially at this price. Yeah, that since November 1st, top of the table along them and Villa. Like this is something here.
That's a match I would like to see again. Villa pumped Everton earlier on this season. I would love to see that again.
Well, we got a rematch in the cup.
We did. It's true.
And Everton got their revenge.
Yeah, they sure did. And we'll get that.
I got my revenge.
I think it could be pretty quick here. Like all three of us are going to be on Everton, eh, Anthony?
Yeah. So who do you think has been Tottenham's most important player this season?
I would say Madison or Van de Ven, one of the two.
Madison.
I would say. Well, I'm surprised you didn't say Son.
Sony.
I had it planned for you guys to say Son, and then I say au contraire. I will make the claim that it's Vicario. So okay. I first of all, yes, they sold Harry Kane. So like obviously Son is the automatic answer that like everybody should probably say just because, he does all the attack now. But there's something really interesting that Scott Willis tweeted out. Great follow, especially if you're an Arsenal fan. He does some good stuff with the Gunners, breaking them down, fan of them. He tweeted a chart, and it was basically just like comparing Tottenham this season to last season, only counting the fixtures they've already played. So their matches, all 17 they played so far, the 17 they played in those exact corresponding fixtures last year. They have 9 more points at this point now than they did last year. Their expected goals are right around where they were last year. Now you sell Harry Kane and your expected goals go up by a tick. That's impressive. That's a credit to Ange and how they're playing, yada, yada. They've scored 3 more goals. So, fine. Net, about the same. We'd all agree Tottenham's attack is clearly better this year. They're playing differently, whatever. The interesting thing is how much the defense has changed. Last season, in these 17 corresponding matches, they conceded 21 expected goals. This year, they have conceded 28 expected goals. So 7 more expected goals. You'd expect them to have conceded 7 more goals this year they did last year. Well, Lloris was so bad, and they ran so bad defensively, and Vicario is so good, and they ran better, that they've actually conceded 8 fewer goals this year than they did last year, despite conceding 6 extra expected goals. So, Vicario, by the post-shot XG metrics at FBref, has actually been the best goalie in the league this year. 5 goals he saved himself over expected, and then, the rest is variance. But, and, other teams missing shots. Cough, cough, Man United. But, they are not still a great team. And I know they had a good showing at Forest. They pretty much dominated that match until the red card. Like, they were in control at all points. I think they had more to say with Forest than Spurs. But now they get an Everton team, which is allowing the lowest XG per shot, bottom 5 number of shots, completely dominated Fulham. I know they went out of the cup because like soccer, own goals, and whatever. Dominated Fulham at home, and an Everton team that I think the market is still catching up to. Everton took money early in the week. Now Spurs are taking money later in the week, and they're not going to have Bissouma or Doggy. And the deputies for those players are just not as good. Like Oliver Skip and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg are not great fits in this Ange system. Like Ben Davis going to go back to left back? Or are they going to, I don't know what the solution is there. So there's some real questions about the Spurs team. And Everton plus a half in money line for me.
Do you remember Vicario in the opener against Brentford too? He was an absolute adventure.
Oh, yeah. He was playing crazy passes, making absurd saves. No, the best Vicario was the Chelsea game.
Yeah. Like
they were playing a 9-man, and he was literally like sweeping 40 yards from his goal and then like diving on balls. And
I love him.
He's awesome. I mean, he's incredible. Credit to Spurs, finding a guy out of Empoli that like nobody was like really hyping as the next big thing. Well, like everybody wanted David Raya, who's been like fine. Brentford miss him for sure, but Arsenal haven't necessarily benefited. So yeah, I like Everton. Just thought that was interesting, just like how much Tottenham's changed and their defensive numbers are bad.
I think the biggest problem that Tottenham is going to have in this match is just defending in transition against Everton because, me and Anthony talked about this on our Monday show about just how good Everton has been out of possession because of their ability to play two different styles. If they feel like they can come out and disrupt build-up play and press teams high, they can do it, and they can do it effectively. Or if they want to sit in some type of low defensive block, they've been really good at doing that too. You'll like this, Michael. Last season under Deitch, they had to be aggressive, try to get out of the relegation fight. Under Deitch, they allowed 1.7 non-penalty XG per 90 minutes. We kept talking about how bad the defense was, about how the offense was improving. This season, haven't had to play as aggressive, been able to sit in that low defensive block, only allowing 1.1 non-penalty XG per 90 minutes, and only allowed 6 big scoring chances. That's tied for fewest in the Premier League with Arsenal. That's how good their defense has been. And really in this match, with Tottenham building on a 2-3-5, that leaves a lot of space out wide when they do lose the ball. And that's exactly where Everton creates all their chances. They just get the ball out wide, and they've sent in the most crosses of anybody in the Premier League. So great matchup here for Everton. Tottenham, decent showing against Forest. But again, can you really say Tottenham's a good team at breaking down low blocks? They're not bad, but they're just kind of average at doing it. So facing a really good low block like Everton, it's a great matchup here for the Toffees.
Yeah, I think the one push back you can make on us here is that Everton did go for it in the EFL Cup in the midweek, so you can say that.
It was on Tuesday. They got plenty of time to rest.
Okay, on to Villa, Red Hot Villa, -500.
Ugh.
This is great. It tells you a couple things. 1, Villa, very good. 2, Sheffield United, 12-1, very bad. Draw is
groundbreaking stuff on the Wondergoal podcast.
6-1. Yeah, it's fun.
Can't get that anywhere else.
It's great to see. Every year we get a team that starts to be dealt numbers that you just didn't think were coming in the beginning of the season, and I would say Villa is a -500 favorite at home in December. It's probably one of those numbers, but full value. Unai Emery's Villa. I mean, there's very little to get into here, I believe, but I'll kick it over to you, Anthony.
Well, the thing you could squint and say is that Villa only really have one player who's designed to defend and win the ball, and it's Kamara. And he's suspended. He got a red card in the melee with Maupay at the end of the match. Hilarious. And at the Brentford match. But, regardless of whatever you think of that, he's out, and that doesn't matter. And Pau Torres is out as well, and he's their best ball-playing center back. So, you start to squint a little, and you can maybe make the case that Villa's overvalued here, but you really want to bet Sheffield?
No.
It's like last week. It's well, if the number got high enough, you'd think about it, right? You'd have to. And then Chelsea got to 2. And Chelsea played really bad for most of the match and still won 2-0.
Phil is so much better than Chelsea, though.
I'm not too certain that they're so much better than Chelsea, but certainly when it comes to creating chances against lower defensive blocks, I trust Villa more. Villa is much more likely to give one back than Chelsea is, right? Like Sheffield, but the time to potentially play against Villa is coming in a week. Mm-hmm. Granted, last Sunday was the time, and Ben Mee's dumb red card cost us a win because that was going to be a routine one for the Bees. Classic Brentford spot. Brentford was the better team for the first hour and a half or hour and 15, and then red card collapse just like that. But this one, kind of smart by Kamara, right? To get was it a straight red or was it a second yellow?
I believe it was straight.
Straight red. Okay, so not smart because now he's going to miss multiple matches. He should have gotten 2 yellows, taken a suspension, and then you miss the Sheffield match. Nobody cares because like not having him will matter for this defense, which is already not great. But no, thank you on Sheffield. I'll pass. Maybe you're not even going to do a money line shot, Leboff?
I don't know. It could yeah. Who knows?
Should have
It
said
will.
anything.
Yeah, no, we'll get there. Like when we get closer to the game, it's just I can't. It's hard to make an argument for them at this point.
20 to
Yeah,
1
they're-
is a good argument.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like
Is it 20 to 1?
No, if they get
They're
there,
they're like 15 to 1 right now. So
yeah, they
maybe
got.
we'll get there.
They already had their new manager bounce game against Brentford.
Yeah.
You'll probably see me.
They're also going to be.
Who's Sheffield? They have Luton next week, don't
Yeah,
they?
that's
Yes.
going to be one of the best
God damn.
matches.
Yeah, I know.
That's going to be the best matches of the Premier League season.
The fact they haven't played yet is so fun.
I
The fact that
Yeah.
Sheffield is favored on any field against any other Premier League team. I looked at the look-ahead line. They go to City then too. Like when are we getting a? It's
I feel like Sheffield exclusively plays teams in the top 8. It really does
Sheffield
feel-
goes to City. They're catching 3, right? They should be. They really
Yeah.
should be,
All right.
especially if Holland and De Bruyne are back. Which I mean, by then they should be.
Let's just move on because this next
Should be.
game's
It
a
should
lot
be
more
3.
interesting.
I wouldn't even take 2.5.
West Ham and United. It's a pick 'em plus 160. It's a pick 'em on the 3-way line, I should say. It's West Ham's plus 160. United plus 162 on the road. The draw here is plus 260. Would it be fair to say these are the two teams that we've scrutinized the most? Fulham probably in there on the podium as well. And now they
Mhm.
face off. I'm gonna have a hard time not betting Manchester United here.
Oh man,
West Ham is not good.
they're terrible.
BJ, where do you have this line projected?
I think I'm
West
a
Ham favorite?
little. I think I have. I'm pretty sure I have United just ever so slightly favored here on the road.
Yeah, me too.
I believe.
These are
I kind of like the over here though.
it's 7 versus 8 in the table, which is astonishing.
It is. I looked today and I was like, I was doing something about I can't remember what it was, but like teams facing teams in the top 9, and I was shocked to see the West Ham just sitting there.
Yeah, I mean,
Inside the top
if
9.
if results break their way, West Ham could finish the festive fixtures like a European spot. It's
Back in the Conference League.
yeah, this is something else. I do think this is a fine time to bet United though. Like they're even decimated. I would assume that West Ham has enough mistakes in them to get punished here.
Yeah, I do like kind of like the over in this match. This has potential to be a basketball back and forth type match with two teams that have to be transitional. It's going to be very big game state dependent though. Essentially, once for the first goal goes in, and either team has to play more aggressive, this thing could get a little bit out of hand. I do project 3.3 goals for this match. I mean, I don't even know if United anymore, but this is one of the matches they have a good chance, I believe, at causing some problems. West Ham has been very bad defensively, but Bowen and Kudus have been pretty threatening on the counter for for how bad their defense has been. So I think this would be a good time to back and over. If you can get 3 at anything plus money, I think that's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we gotta buy low on these defenses, right? I mean, they can't possibly both be bottom 5 in the league, but they're gonna need to get some change in players or personnel or tactics. And for me, with West Ham, I agree. They did still look open against Wolves. It just came down to Wolves never finding the right pass. It wasn't like West Ham completely shut them down in that match. And I think that West Ham's attack with a healthy Bowen, Paqueta, and Kudus is still very viable. And in fact, better than what they had last year, just because Antonio's injury has kind of been addition by subtraction in a way. So, and Bowen's got 10 goals as a central striker essentially for them. That's pretty good return. West Ham does no pressing. And if you look at the games where United has generally played pretty well, it's against teams that will just let you have the ball and not disrupt your passing. And, I know that some of these matchups are the worst teams in the league, but Palace is down there. They played pretty well against them. Fulham, they had a lot of chances to get into the final third. I know they ended up creating very little in that match, but they had a lot of opportunities to create on the break. And then, Forest, and then obviously Luton Town and Sheffield are down there. So, in theory, it's not a terrible matchup for United because their biggest problem right now is they don't have midfielders that can pass consistently under pressure. And they're just not going to have that problem here. It's going to be free reign, which means Scotty's going to get forward. Maybe Rasmus Højlund will score a Premier League goal at some point in his career. It's hard to fathom an under, even though I do think that ultimately there's going to become a point where we have to buy these defenses at the floor.
Cool. Yeah. It should be a fun one. Both these teams they're in a weird way been mirror images of each other, coming from very different starting points of late. 4-1-2 in their last 10. In their last 7 win, draw, loss. West Ham has been a really high event team in that span. And United has been a low event team in terms of actual goals, which I don't think is what you'd expect. But Anthony, you said you were really excited for Liverpool Arsenal. I'm really excited for this one. On to Fulham and Burnley next. The Cottagers. Odds on at home, minus 143. Burnley traveling as a 4-1 underdog, and a draw would pay plus 275.
I hate this match.
It's
I really do.
All right, go on.
I don't want to bet Burnley at all. I think they're terrible. I think they're probably getting relegated. Their style of play just doesn't work. They definitely are.
Yeah.
They have not beaten a team
dangerously close to that mix.
Yeah, they have. Burnley has not beaten a established Premier League team. Their only 2 wins have come against Luton and Sheffield United. Fulham's terrible. They're not terrible. They're not terrible. They're just better than what the market thinks they are. Even if Burnley gets +1, I cannot bet on this team. Fulham's actually decent at coming out and pressing when they need to. Burnley can't build up. They're not good in transition defense. This sets up pretty well for Fulham, but there's no way you can lay minus 150 right now with Fulham. It's a pass for me. I know you two are going to make the case for Burnley.
At some point, not having a striker has to matter.
You think?
Now they got one.
They don't. He's suspended, though.
Raul?
He's out now.
Is he?
He got a red card for I don't
That's
even know
right.
what the
Yeah.
hell that was.
Yeah.
He's out, and he missed the League Cup match. And guess what? They took one shot from inside the penalty area in 90 minutes against Everton. So,
yeah, and I actually think that game also, you could push back a little on that game too. Here, I feel like it matters that it's a shortened week for them.
Under BJ.
Hmm.
If there were ever to be one. If you ever want to, if you
right
can
now?
stomach an under in this league right now. I know Fulham have been a truck at home. They scored 110 goals their last 5 home matches.
Yeah. What is the total right now?
It's extremely
Is it straight 2.5?
believe so. Hold on.
2.5
plus money. 2.5 plus money.
I have 2.6 goals projected for this match. But yeah, if there was ever an under, it'd be this one. The problem is, actually, it really isn't a problem because if Fulham scores first, then they're just going to hand the ball to Burnley and dare them to break them down, which Burnley's not going to be able to do. Yeah, I'm passing.
Hey,
look, Fulham Everton in the League Cup closed 2.25 without Raul, and the under was the right side all the way. It ended 1-1, but there was 1.7 xG. Everton scored late. There was an own goal. 2.5. I know in this modern Premier League, everything goes over, but we're still running 60% overs. But why is this not 2.25?
Burnley's offense is terrible.
They're afraid of Willian.
It's great. I think I've just talked myself into an over that I wasn't planning to or an under that I wasn't originally planning to bet.
That's always
never goes well.
That's always a good thing. But I do think what you're saying, I don't think the margins here are all that wide when you compare to what these odds are telling you.
Fulham closed minus 170 against Sheffield, pretty close to fully healthy.
Yep.
Burnley's a tick or 2 ticks better than that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Burnley or nothing here. I'm definitely not laying it with Fulham, but
Hey, and they've got 2. They've only lost 2 of their last 4 at Burnley. So
It's true.
here
They
comes
got
the
to draw against. They got to draw against Brighton.
Here comes the run. All right.
I also heard during the Burnley Everton match that their keeper James Trafford has touched the ball more than any other keeper in the Premier League this season, which is maybe not a stat you want.
That's like when hockey players are when announcers big up hockey players for blocking shots. You're like, well, that means that he's on the ice for a lot of shots against. All right,
Burnley 19th in expected threat, 20th in crosses, 16th in box entry conversion rate, and Fulham's attack is 20th in box entry conversion rate, 16th in expected threat.
Yeah, Fulham's not good. Like they're not good. So
and Fulham is 15th in non-penalty XG after this like insane run they just went on.
Yeah. So, all right, good. We're all on Burnley. I'll see you guys there.
Under 2. I'm on under 2.5.
I'll see you. The Burnley.
Well, I think there's a way better spot to fade Fulham in, and we'll talk about it when we do our look ahead for Boxing Day.
All right, Luton Town and Newcastle next. If not much to say here. Luton plus 375 at home. Newcastle minus 163 on the road. And if you want to bet a draw in this match, man, God, you might be the only person on the planet doing so. That's plus 350.
Oh man.
Yeah, this BJ. I thought when I was thinking about this match, and I was like, it's gonna be a tough one to talk about. The only thing I could come up with in my head was just betting Newcastle to do the heavy lifting towards an over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely talk me into. I'm probably gonna end up betting a Newcastle team total, probably over 2.5. But over 2.5, there's still a minus 125 out there, which I think is too low. First off, what happened to Tom Locklear was obviously terrible, and I hope that he ends up being okay. But the bigger point is that obviously it's okay, but he was like the shoestring that was like holding this Luton Town defense up, and now he's not there. And this is a defense that, I mentioned before the Bournemouth match, they obviously didn't finish it, but in their 9 matches previously, they did play a lot of the big teams, which Newcastle is one of them, or is a big team. Luton Town had allowed 25.3 expected goals and 19 big scoring chances. Playing teams inside the top 9, they've allowed 17.8 big expected goals in 9 matches. So now they run into the problem that a lot of these teams in the bottom half of the table run into against Newcastle, which is why Newcastle's so good in these type of scenarios, is Luton Town's going to send the ball long from goal kicks. They are going to evade Newcastle's press. They're not going to try to build out against it, which ends up playing great in Newcastle's hands because then you can play a transition back and forth type match with one of the best transition teams in the Premier League. So it's a very, very terrible matchup here for Luton Town, who hasn't been good in rest defense. Like, they press high occasionally, but that's not really going to matter here. Like, even if they hand the ball to Newcastle and say, hey, Newcastle, break us down, like, Newcastle's probably going to be able to do it because Luton Town's that bad in their rest defense. But Newcastle's been getting healthier defensively, but they have been shaky away from home. Like, they've been really, really good at St. James Park, like insanely good. They've basically gotten no points away from home, and their defense is a big reason why, because they're allowing 1.85 expected goals per 90 minutes away from St. James Park. So I think this has a potential for, again, another basketball-type match. I had to double-check my projections, but I projected 4.1 goals for this match because of how bad Luton's defense has been.
Not that crazy.
I know.
It's really not that crazy.
It's funny to hear. It's just funny to hear.
It is, but also this is the number 1 offense in the Premier League by non-penalty expected goals.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Luton if you add up just 11 on 11 minutes, XG and XGA, like, so who's played the highest event matches in the league this year? It's not Liverpool, it's Newcastle. A lot of it is they've had a lot of really bad defensive outliers. They've had a lot of really bad attacking outliers, but like, their games get crazy sometimes. I mean, like, they were closing 3 against Sheffield. So why is this all the way down to 2.5? Like, what's reasonably changed when they went to Sheffield versus when they're going to Luton right now?
I also might just lay it with Newcastle as well. We'll see if the price is rising, but if you compare some of the teams that have gone to Luton Town, where like Arsenal and Liverpool are laying almost like 2 goals against them, and now you're getting Newcastle at
Tottenham was minus 240.
Yeah, Tottenham was. Yeah, it's like now we're getting like minus 150, minus 160 of Newcastle. Like that's pretty low. So I might just lay it with Newcastle. Maybe you can play some alts. But yeah, this has the makings of like a Newcastle absolute blowout.
Rolling over my Newcastle Fulham alt winnings into Newcastle.
Yeah. How about another Newcastle alt?
I'm just in full disagreement with the market on the strength of Newcastle. I'm less.
Oh yeah.
I'm less inclined to go against those numbers when they're on the road. But like, I don't know who their next home match is, but I'm guessing we're going to get a really good price just based on what I've seen.
It is Sheffield or Nottingham Forest, who we'll get to in a second.
Oh no, maybe not. They're probably like minus 250 in that game, right?
They were minus 225, but they've risen up to about minus 240 range, minus 245 range today.
Forest got the new manager downgrade for hiring Nuno.
We'll get there. We'll get there next, actually. Forest.
I'm betting them. I'll say it.
They're plus 175 in Nuno's debut here, hosting Bournemouth, plus 155. The draw is plus 240. We had a feeling that the Bournemouth numbers would start to get a little too expensive. Anthony thinks it's coming, but I do want to just tip our cap to Steve Cooper on a job well done. Gets Forrest back up, keeps them up.
What did he do?
He kept the team up.
Kept them up.
He got them up and kept them up. That's not.
We got a couple. We bet them as underdogs like every single week and don't win. He's drawn us in. Like
the only thing Steve Cooper ever did for me was cash, and when he beat Crystal Palace 1-0 way back in December.
So I don't understand why you're questioning, and then
he clinched the 200-1 for us.
This is an absolute rafters to name number to the rafters moment on Wondergoal. I kind of tend to agree with you here, Anthony. I guess I can listen to your argument. I would much rather bet Forest here than Bournemouth as a favorite on the road.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I just think that like I have clearly upgraded Bournemouth, and I've been high on Bournemouth all year. I've also been generally higher than the market on this Forest team. I wonder how much of their recent struggles with it they were just sick and done with Steve Cooper, and how much do we now get just like an energy bounce, a motivation bounce, and I think that is very real until the players realize that like Nuno is like the mirrored version of what Steve Cooper was doing, and that it's not really going to make this team any better because they don't really have a striker. They lost Taiwo for it looks like the year now, and they're just not really that good without him. I mean, Taiwo's out till March, so maybe they get him back. They also should get Sangare back here, so that's one to watch. But yeah, I mean, this Forest team, like extremely passive, out of possession, attack and transition with like 3 players and hope you score. And that's not a terrible strategy if the attackers are really good. But Forest, they're not getting any striker production. And thus, even despite that, like they played Wolves pretty even. They played Everton pretty even. They played Brighton pretty even. They played West Ham pretty even. So like they've been running bad, and it's been shot stopping. It's been various other things, but like they've run pretty bad to get here. And Bournemouth, we're kind of just like at the top of the market on this team, laying a full goal to Luton, and now pick them on the road against Forest. Like at the beginning of the season, Bournemouth had the same relegation odds as Forest. I've upgraded Bournemouth. I haven't changed Forest much, but like it seems like we're at the top. So going to be the trees for me. Not a huge play. Nothing I'm like dying to run to the sports book to bet, but I do like the trees at home.
All right, we'll close out the pre-Boxing Day segment with Wolves and Chelsea. Wolverhampton plus 260 at the Molineux. Chelsea traveling as an odds-on road favorite, minus 106, and a draw is plus 275 for this one. Yeah, like I don't know. We got to do it, right?
They think match day squad potentially start based on what the commentary has been from Mr. O'Neill.
Wolves team total?
Wolves team total.
Wolves are back.
I like Wolves plus a half here. Chelsea had an okay showing in the midweek against Newcastle. They played down a goal most of the match and created one expected goal against the Newcastle team that we just got done talking about how bad they've been defensively away from home. And I think when you play a team with good attacking players on the break and like a pretty healthy midfield now, they went through a period with suspensions and injuries that they weren't at their best. At home, catching a half, I think Chelsea remains overvalued. Thus, I'll back our Wolves again, as I like to do a lot. And Neto coming back off the bench is just so important. I think, psychologically, but like also just as a player, he is by far their best ball carrier, and that's going to matter a lot. The thing with Chelsea is that their defense has really taken a slide. And I know they had a dominant showing against Sheffield, but like that doesn't really count. Their defense has fallen off. And that was the thing that I was most surprised about. Like their attack's been mostly fine, creating chances on the break, fine. Their expected goals allowed are much higher than you'd think. Where do you think Chelsea ranks XG allowed this year?
I saw they were 5th.
9th?
9th.
Yeah, like mid-table.
It's kind of wild. And you wouldn't expect that given the personnel and given how good they are defensively off the ball pressing. And yet they're 9th. So I think that that's alarming. And I think that makes them vulnerable. So give me the Wolves.
Bad transition defense.
Yeah, really bad. Even if you take out and you just go non-penalty and you go just 11 on 11 all game states, they're still 8th. So it's really not like there's been some skew from penalties because they've conceded a few of those, but like, nope, just not great.
Okay, let's talk Boxing Day real quick. We'll just do an overview, touch on some angles we like. 5 matches on the 26th, 3 on the 27th, and then again on the 28th, one more. So
we're gonna do a Wednesday episode coming out of the holiday. So we're gonna go a little more in depth on the Thursday matches. Then Brighton, Tottenham, Arsenal, West Ham. So
all right, so we'll stick to 26th and the 27th. Man. First up, we got to talk about Villa and United. I just talked about how I think I want to bet. I want to bet United against West Ham. I do not want to bet them in this spot as a favorite at home. Plus 140 hosting Villa. Plus 200. This is a Boxing Day, 3 p.m. kickoff Eastern time. You gotta be betting Villa here, Anthony. I
don't think he is.
Come on.
Yeah, I put the game in the dock because I want to talk about it. I don't really want to bet United. I don't actually want to do it. Like, okay.
You could talk to me about the Villa road splits all you want. United home field advantage is not an advantage this season. It's just so toxic there. Like it's not.
Everybody beats them.
They don't win at Old Trafford.
Yeah, I mean they don't win any. Well,
they do, and they get draws at Anfield, which apparently is the biggest fortress we've ever seen, according to you at the top of the show.
On Saturday,
apparently, yeah.
No,
Nobody wins there.
I wish the market would downgrade this team so I could just bet them one time as like a dog at home.
But that's what I'm talking about here. Like this
they're
is
favorites. So no, I can't. Yeah. Like I think they should be a slight underdog. if they were a plus money draw no bet here, I'd take them. But I gotta lay juice. No way. It's just crazy to me. I don't understand. I'll never understand. It's not like they're healthy and all these really talented players are underperforming, and you could say, well, we have historical baselines for Marcus Rashford. We know how good he is. We know how good Bruno Fernandes is. We know how good Casemiro is. We know how good Lisandro Martinez is. Like, none of these dudes are playing. Fernandes will be that. But, like, they're not even playing. So, like who is supposed to inspire me? Kabi Mainu? Scott McTominay and Amrabat? Like, we loved Amrabat in Morocco. We loved Amrabat at Fiorentina. To me, like, he doesn't strike me as, like, a game-changing Premier League level player.
No.
So, like, what am I missing here? He's like a squad player. That's their midfield. I mean, Bruno is a good player. Yes. Bruno is the one player that would scare me in this matchup because if he can pick 1 or 2 balls over the top against this Villa team that doesn't press for shit and gives you time on the ball, which is all United can't create for themselves, but when they're given it, they have enough attacking talent to make you pay. Like, that's the matchup I like here. I like the fact that, like, oh, they're just going to let Bruno do his thing, and then he's going to ping balls to Rashford, ping balls to Højlund, get Garnacho in space. But it's crazy, man. Their defense is so bad that you just can't trust them. So, number's not good enough for me. I really want to bet United just one time. I want to
do it with me
put it in the
West
app.
Ham.
Like, there's a lot of teams I
West Ham.
hate and tend to bet against way more often. But, like, it was so fun betting Bayern against United, like betting Bayern against Wolfsburg today. I was like, this is so much more fun watching the good teams and rooting for them. I want to do that. I want to do the opposite. Like, I want to bet on United and win. BJ got his one win, and it had to be like the best win of the season.
Yeah.
No,
I'm never going to bet them again.
It's the best.
They're going to be catching a goal at Chelsea at this rate, so maybe we'll get a chance.
I know.
I had this conversation with my friend Irish Paul today, watching the darts, because the favorites just absolutely demolished for the first 20 matches, and 19-1, and then we bet a favorite today, and we were just talking about how wonderful it was. How great it was just to watch a good team play good, or a good darts player throw good. Okay. We'll save the darts talk for after Boxing Day, when we get to the pointy end of the World Championship. Bournemouth and Fulham. Let's talk about them next.
Yeah.
BJ, you had this.
Why isn't Bournemouth a bigger favorite?
I told you, the market likes this Fulham team. Look at all the lines they've got.
Do.
They really like Fulham.
It's crazy.
The market thinks Fulham is better than we do. They closed like pretty solidly respected at Newcastle, despite the line never moved. They closed pretty solidly respectful at Everton. They're getting market respect this week at Burnley. Like,
yeah, I don't get it. We've already been through the Fulham song and dance like 100 times. I don't need to rehash that. Obviously, Bournemouth is improving. This is a match where they'll probably hold a lot of possession, but I have Bournemouth at like plus 110,
same,
which I think is
plus 121.
Pretty much about right. Yeah. So Fulham's getting too much market respect. It's going to be, by the way, which all signs are pointing to it. If Paulinho leaves in January, then it's going to get really fun.
Is he going to Bayern finally?
It sounds like it.
I'm intrigued by that.
There's been floated some Arsenal and Manchester United talk around there, but I think it's Bayern or nothing at this point, which would be great for Bayern, but we'll save that for the Champions League episodes. But yeah,
Barca should sign him.
With how much Bournemouth has been improving and how crazy this run that Fulham has been on, and you can even they were terrible, like Anthony mentioned, they were terrible against Everton in the League Cup. They got a red card against Newcastle, so you can maybe put an asterisk next to that. But I thought Newcastle was outplaying them for the first 20 minutes to begin with anyway. The only things they've done is essentially 2 5-0 wins against low block teams and West Ham and Nottingham Forest. Outside of that, where's the really, really dominant performance outside of beating Sheffield or Luton Town? There really isn't one for Fulham. So yeah, they're still not going to have. Jimenez will still be out for this match. Yeah, it'll be the third match. So still no striker on the road against a Bournemouth team that is surging. Don't understand why Bournemouth is only plus 140.
Okay, we'll continue to jump around. Everton and
Palace.
Yeah, those
are the two dogs.
This is Everton. Interesting. So Everton's playing Man City at home. Everton's plus 450. City's minus 167. I think
City is coming home from the Club World Cup.
Yeah. Well, the question is okay, Kevin De Bruyne has been training. Erling Haaland should be back.
Yeah.
Doku's back.
This City team, this is the time, right? They got their little break here. They're not going to play Brentford this weekend. They're going to have to make that up in April. But this is the moment where
this is when it sounds almost too neat. It almost sounds too neat just to do it, because it's the fixture list is about to flip. But it does feel like every year, right around this time, they just we take a deep breath and we look up and they're 11 wins out of 12 with a draw. And however, just from a betting perspective, first of all, this number in this fixture last year was double, I think. which just tells you how far this Everton roster or this Everton team has come.
Everton outplayed. Wasn't that the match? Like they were plus 1.5. They outplayed them and then lost like 3-0. Do I remember that right?
They've had a couple really close ones with them, and not they've all blurred
Well, there was
together.
the famous offsides decision.
There was the handball. It was a handball, yeah. And
yeah.
then
Hold on, I'm trying to find the map.
But they played well against them, even under Lampard. Like they've done a decent job against City. They had a draw. Did they draw them last year?
I think they did at the Etihad.
Yeah,
right?
I think
that was the Luck Box one, but then they played again.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, they did. Oh yeah, Everton away. So soccer's the best sport. So they played in December 31st, New Year's Eve. I remember this match. Everton had 0.1 xG and scored a late goal to tie 1-1. I think it was Decore. It was Damari Gray. Remember that match? I do now.
Oh yes.
And then they played toward the end of the season, and at Everton had like 3 or 4 huge chances on set pieces early. And then Gundogan scored just before half, and then before you blinked, it was 3-0 City. And the total XG in the match was 1.6 for Everton, 0.8 for City. Total shots were 9-7, and City won 3-0 as a road favorite. And I was sitting there with both teams to score and plus 1.5, just ready to jump off a bridge. So, yeah. But no, I mean, that's funny, But I mean, I'm going to wait and see like what the status is. Those players matter a lot to how good City is because they don't really have a big shot person to replace Haaland or De Bruyne, as we've seen that their performances have taken a dip considerably if you compare their numbers this year to the numbers like Scott talked about earlier, or like I said with Scott earlier, like the corresponding fixtures. City's pretty solidly down in XG created and XG allowed. I think not having De Bruyne and Haaland's a big part of that for part of those games.
And Palace.
Yeah.
God love Palace. Can I also say, I know you guys recorded and talked about the Palace match against Brighton coming up. Palace hasn't been as bad as their results, at all. So
they're going to get better too.
Yeah, they're a team to start scooping up here in this Chelsea match on over the Boxing Day period. They're playing the 27th. Not a bad spot.
This will be their match against Brighton is the first time that Eze and Elise will be playing together this season, which is optimal for Crystal Palace's ability to break and transition and actually create chances.
Good thing I have the under.
It's true. But no, I mean, the biggest thing we always talk about with Crystal Palace, like Decore being out kind of sucks, but defensive solidity, like they're for a team that's, in the middle of the table, like there's not a better team with defensive solidity. The fact that their back four has all been playing together for about 2 years is obviously massive when you're going to be sitting at a low defensive block for most of the match. And they've done a great job their last few matches. I mean, they played Liverpool and City, allowed 1.2 to Liverpool and 1.6 XG to City. That's impressive stuff. Like that can't go ignored. So, and with the Chelsea team, like Anthony said, was playing down a man against a Newcastle and only to be able to create, one expected goal. Like it's going to be a struggle. I wish we could get Palace at plus 1.5 or not. It's going to bet them at plus 1. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Palace and maybe Everton.
Okay. Unless there's another match you guys want to touch on there,
That's good.
Let's pepper on. Like I said, Serie A is also kicking around over the weekend. The other 2 or 3 leagues of the Big Five are off, and you each have a play in Italy. BJ, what do you got?
Yeah, Monza Friday. There's 4 Friday matches in Serie A. I'll take Monza. Drawn bet plus 110 against Fiorentina. I talked about Fiorentina last week when they were playing Verona, but really just an offense that has drastically overperformed this season. Really not having great process numbers, but just not creating much once they get into the final third. Only averaging around 1.2 non-penalty XG per 90 minutes, which puts them in the bottom 10 of Serie A. It's going to be a very interesting match because both these teams really want to hold possession, slow build up out of the back. But if you just look at straight expected goal differential, Monza's at minus 3.9 and Fiorentina's at minus 3. So I don't think there's really a reason why Fiorentina should be a road favorite here. So I like Monza drawing a bet at plus 110.
Yeah, I like Bologna drawing a bet around even money at home against Atalanta. Bologna's been considerably improved. Xerxes, the Bayern, former Bayern guy, 12 goal involvements for him this year, carried them to a win against Inter in the Coppa Italia this week. He has been kind of the attack, and it's enabled them to be extremely passive out of possession and be really, really good defensively. And that, I think, is the key, right? So they're a top 5 defense by every metric in Serie A, from non-penalty XG and XG per set piece allowed. And then attacking wise, like, they are very good on the break. And Atalanta has been so low event this year. I almost long for the old days of Gasperini. They've been much more defensive, and it's led to them just kind of being solidly like the 7th best team in Italy, which is fine. They're a good team, but Bologna's right there with them. So why is it a pick 'em at home? I like Bologna.
Okay, let's get on to our three-legged underdog parlay. Hey, if ever there's a time to hit one, it's right now in Christmas coming up for a lot of listeners. Maybe put some of that holiday money back in your pockets with a 67-1 underdog. Come close a couple times this season. Obviously, last season we hit the big one. Pretty close to the holidays, so maybe some fairy dust on this one, BJ. And what a team to start it off with.
Everton 3-1, Michael. I mean, this is a great matchup for them. For a Tottenham team that's going to be missing a lot of key players. For Everton, who has been really, really good in transition offense, especially getting the ball into wide areas, completed the most crosses of anybody in the Premier League into the penalty area. Where Tottenham's going to build out a 2-3-5, which leaves a lot of space out wide, giving Everton exactly what they want to do. And the Everton defense has been drastically improved this season, allowing the fewest big scoring chances in the Premier League. Great spot here for Everton, 3-1 on the road against Tottenham.
Burnley 4-1, taking on Fulham. This is one of those classic matches where the odds are just way too wide and giving way too much respect to a team that is below mediocre. That being Fulham, we're getting to the point where Burnley's going to need to start picking up these kind of wins if they have any hope of surviving. And I like the matchup here because I don't really think Fulham can punish them. Not a good offensive team, as Anthony said earlier, missing their only striker, their only reliable striker, if you can call him that. So, yeah, this is it. Burnley, up the Clarets, plus 400. And Anthony, what do you got?
Genoa plus 240 against Sassuolo. This Sassuolo attack is all pixie dust. They've gotten 9 goals from Domenico Berardi, 29-year-old striker. If you watch Berardi, he's a pretty good player. But he's at 0.18 non-penalty XG per 90 this year, and he has 9 goals and 12.8 90s. And it's not just finishing. He's had 5 penalties. This Sassuolo attack is bottom 3 in shot quality, bottom 3 in shot distance. Their attack is entirely based on the fact that they've had a couple of really good penalty calls and a ton of penalty luck for a team that doesn't even have the ball in the opponent's penalty area that much. And defensively, Genoa is one of the best teams in Serie A. They do not concede high-quality chances. They do not concede a lot of shots. The Genoa attack is nothing to write home about, but just given how lucky this Sassuolo attack's been and how overvalued they are generally as a result of that, like I said, even with all of the crazy penalty luck they've had this year, they still have a much worse expected goal differential than Genoa. And if you remove penalties from the sample entirely, Genoa, a league average team, Sassuolo minus 0.45 per 90. So I do not believe in this Sassuolo team. I like Genoa plus 240.
67-1 on that one. If it comes through, hopefully it does. For all of our sakes, as we head into Christmas, BJ and I have children, so my money is jingling these days, BJ. Gets pretty expensive around these parts.
Oh yeah.
On to best bets now for the upcoming Premier League slate. Anthony, are you going to go with Liverpool?
No.
Do it.
Good, we talked you out of it.
No, it was never going to be my best
bet. We talked you out of it.
My best bet is Fulham, Burnley, under 2.5 at plus 105. Mainly because you guys took the 2 that I really wanted, or at least Michael took the one that I really wanted.
The two you really wanted. Yep.
And BJ is going to be wrong on his, but I like this under because I think that if you want to play against Fulham right now, it's playing against the attack at the peak of the market. They've gotten this huge market upgrade. I don't really want to bet Burnley. I don't really trust Burnley's attack, but I also think Fulham without an actual striker is going to struggle to create chances against this Burnley team that can keep enough defensive possession to make this an ugly, ugly game. So give me the under 2.5 in that game.
Everton on the money line, plus 300. Should be able to take advantage of a very helter-skelter Spurs defense. And this Everton defense on its own is worth betting on. So BJ talked about it quite a bit in his underdog statement. No need to keep going into why. It would be the 5th time we talked about this Everton bet. So I think you've heard enough about it. BJ.
Arsenal, draw no bet, plus 110 against Liverpool. I don't see in this matchup how Arsenal is the worst team here. You could give Liverpool a little bit of home field advantage, but I think the matchup for Liverpool is quite terrible. There's only been one team that Liverpool has played this season where they've had to step up in the class of competition of which Arsenal is, and that's against Manchester City. And in that match, they were really, really poor out of possession. Their press was basically non-existent. They sat in a low defensive block. They allowed City to create 2 expected goals. And the flip side of this is that Arsenal right now is probably the best out of possession team in the entire world. They're pressing and in their rest defense. They're only allowing 0.72 non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes, only 6 big scoring chances allowed. They're really good in transition defense. So Arsenal's probably going to control this match. They're probably going to tilt the field in Liverpool, and Liverpool's going to try to beat them in transition. But again, they're playing the best transition defensive team, maybe in the world right now. So I think it's a very difficult matchup here for Liverpool at home, and one that they're not going to be ready for, similar to how Brighton wasn't ready for how Arsenal pressed them. So I love my Gunners. Draw no bet, plus 110. I have them projected as a road favorite, and at this stage of the season, they are a better team than Liverpool.
All right, that does it for this episode of Wondergoal, presented to you by Bet365. It's always fun watching these Boxing Day fixtures, betting on them. It's a great time to be a soccer punter. So we hope you all have a great holiday season, and a big part of that holiday season is winning some bets, either fading or following us. So for Anthony and BJ, have a very happy holidays, and we'll see you on the other side.